Well, here's the gear that we're traveling with. Neither Anik or I wanted to bring our big laptops because we're already bringing all kinds of dive gear and everything, and our bags are loaded. So she's going to need I brought a tablet there on the left, a Windows-based tablet. Just a cheapie, but it doesn't have much storage. So only a 32 gig hard drive, and Windows and operating system and Office, which Unique needs to work on, takes up about 20 gigs of the 32. So it's limited. She has her iPad, but we rarely have access to the internet, and there's no ports or anything on that, so it's difficult to move things around. So that's just a play tool. And then we've got our phones. Now, my BlackBerry here, which I'm doing all of my filming on, by the way, is unlocked. And I may put a new SIM card in it when we get to Australia, but I didn't want to do it right now because I didn't think I needed it. Anik has a nice new LG, which she's taking pictures with, but it is locked, so we're rather restricted with it. And then, but by the way, both of these phones have got micro SD media cards in them, which is where all our filming is going on. And I think mine's a 16, hers may be a 16 gig as well. But you have to know that between pictures and filming every day, that's 3 or 4 gigs at least on each camera that has to be manipulated every night. And then luckily Ben and Mel had an extra Samsung kicking around, which was unlocked, and we were able to put in a new SIM card in here with data and everything for about 45 bucks for, well, the whole month we're here. So we've got we can make phone calls, but more importantly, we can put in navigation software. More about that shortly. So this phone has been an absolute godsend, an unlocked Android device. And we have a couple of small cameras. Here's my underwater camera, and Anik has her small camera that she's shooting with, that she has with her right now at the beach somewhere. And the camera, her camera has an SD card, and my underwater camera has a micro SD card. And they're both around 8 to 16 gig cards. So that's what we're traveling with. So it's one thing to travel with all this technology. The other thing is that you need supporting hardware. And the first thing you do is you got to be able to charge all your stuff every night. And over here the plugs are different. Not only the plugs are different, but the voltage and the frequency is different too. So you need various styles of cords to make sure that you can plug in your stuff every night. And I'm just looking for the main one we use, which is sure enough plugged in right now. This is the baby that's really doing most of the work for us. So it's an adapter at the end, and then you have your charging cord, which usually has a certain kind of transformer range on the back of it. Now all of these devices are a little bit different, which is causing us some grief. So we have 5 different devices, 5 different charging cords. We couldn't travel with all 5 cords. So this baby seems to be doing the job. And even though the voltage and the frequency is different, there's a range on all these transformers that you can read if you can read the small print. And this seems to be working for us, but it's rather limited because we've only got one that really works well. And here's Anik's iPad one, which is slightly different, but we need an extra plug-in. And we bought this cheap Chinese unit that has a USB port at the back, which charges some things, but not all things. But it does fit the sockets over here. And I mentioned that moving all these gigabytes of movies and everything around is really problematic. So because the tablet is our major operating system, and we can't clog it up. Every night I've got to remove 4 or 5 gigs of materials from devices onto the tablet. And then fortunately, before we left, we bought an external hard drive here. Now this is a terabyte, so that's 1,000 gigs. So think of a movie size, about a gig. So you can put 1,000 movies on here. This is really the workhorse for us right now. Everything's going on there every night. We got all kinds of other stuff in here too, like all kinds of charging cords and a little mouse when you want to do some intricate work, because movie editing, even though I'm not very good at all that stuff, I still have to be able to manipulate things appropriately. And here's something that's really been great for us. This is a oh golly, I've forgotten what it's called, a card reader. So because the tablet only has one USB port, then you have to be able to put in various SD cards into here and read through the USB port in the tablet. And this is, once again, a card reader, and it takes different sizes of SD cards. So that's been really important. All these things we've been purchasing along the way as we need them. And lastly, this is a USB splitter, and that's because many of the places we're staying might only have one plug in the wall to plug things in. So the one adapter goes in the wall, and everything else gets plugged in overnight, and we hope things are charged by the next morning. Sometimes they're not. Yeah, it's been a real struggle. So you got to bring all this crap with you, and I'm sure some 12-year-old could do this a little easier. And because they have all this cloud technology now, unfortunately, where we're traveling, very seldom do we have the internet, and when we do have the internet, it's pretty useless. One more thing that we are concerned about when we're traveling is our security when we're using the internet. And in particular, we're in Wi-Fi hotspots, we're in public places, we're in a whole range of really lousy internet provider solutions up and down the coast here. And Anique's doing her professional PhD stuff, and she's collaborating with people, and she's publishing, and she needs professional security. And I'm still doing all my banking back home, so I needed something too. So we ended up signing up to a VPN service. That's a virtual private network service. And the one I chose here is called Ytopia. And it works fantastic on our cell phones, and on Windows 10, it's wonky, but we get it working. So here's what it looks like. And essentially, wherever you are, as soon as you log on to the internet, it builds an encrypted tunnel for you. And it uses gateways around the world. We used a gateway in LA when we were there. We used a gateway in Toronto when we were back in Barrie. And now we're using a gateway in Sydney, Australia. But it completely encrypts all the work we do, particularly our banking stuff, because we're using our big credit card nonstop. And we wanted to make sure we didn't get hacked in the process. So that's called a VPN service, and we're happy with the service. We're not so happy with Windows 10 here. Let's just talk about navigation before I sign off. Yes, we have some maps, and they kind of worked for us a bit, but we really struggled. And then with this unlocked Android, and we bought a plan for it. And the nice thing about it is that there are some navigation apps that probably everybody knows about already, like Google Maps, or another one that we were given is called Navigator. And basically, before you travel into no data, no Wi-Fi territory, you can download the maps you need for the next day's travel. And Google Maps does that really well. And you can program in ahead of time where you're going, what your activities are, what you want to see, and of course Google Maps gives you a nice play-by-play as you drive along. The other software, Navigator, does the same thing, same process. The Navigator apparently is built on a TomTom engine. TomTom is a GPS unit you buy for your vehicles. We have a TomTom. I did not buy the maps for New Zealand because they were expensive, but I do have the TomTom set up for Australia. So, but nice to have an unlocked phone with a plan on it for day-to-day navigation. Yeah, this has been a godsend.